that black people don't celebrate the 4th of July, right? We take the day off, but we don't really celebrate it. And I'm like, speak for yourself, Joy Reid, because Joy Reid is not a black American.
Because in many ways, and with apologies to my dear spicy white friends, because I know that my white brothers and sisters do love a 4th of July. It is Independence Day. Everybody's barbecuing. It's a thing. I can promise you, black folks, we will take that day off. We will barbecue because we all.
Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Okay, there we go. Can you guys hear me?
Off. But black people, that nobody black I know is really excited about the 4th of July, because it is what Frederick Douglass said it is. It is the celebration of slaveholders who freed themselves from having to pay taxes to the crown for their slave empire. And that is what it is.
Yeah. So Joy Reid, I'm not entirely sure how somebody who is not a black American can speak for black Americans when it comes to how we're supposed to feel about July 4th, right? Saying that we're not excited. I'm personally very excited. I'm always excited to celebrate this country. It's one of my favorite things to do. Now, Joy Reid, if you're not excited about it, then that's on you. But I am personally very excited. And I think most black people are excited to celebrate the 4th of July. But it's okay. It's okay if some Negroes don't want to celebrate the 4th of July because, when black people celebrate too much, violence tends to break out, right? So it may be a good thing. It may be safer for this country if some black people sit out the 4th of July. They already had their celebration.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Hope you guys like this setup. Should have done this a long time ago. Going live like this. You guys can see me more compared to not seeing me. Me keep on flipping the camera, going back and forth. Yeah, let's get it. Good morning, good morning. Joy Reid, most of them, we shouldn't celebrate, you know what I'm saying, the 4th of July. It's independence. That's how we got here. But the 4th of July, we're going to have, you know what I'm saying, Juneteenth, which is not a problem, but it's how they celebrate it. You know what I'm saying? They want to enact being slave, which they don't have to be there. Why you want in China being slave? You know what I'm saying? Makes no sense.
During Juneteenth, okay, and we already saw what happened during Juneteenth, right? All the violence and chaos that broke out on that holiday, right? So again, I'm just saying it could be good for some black people to sit out the 4th of July, but for the most part, I think most black people are excited about the 4th of July to celebrate this country. But hey, it is what it is. This is not the only ridiculous take from Joy Reid, because as I outlined at the beginning of this video, black liberals are finding something new to complain about every single day, something new to boohoo, whine, and cry about. And now they're
Can
crying
you guys in the
about
chat
the
hear me?
Knicks accepting President Trump's invitation to go to the White House. Now, many of you guys should be aware that the NBA teams stopped going to the White House when Trump was in office during his first term. And then they resumed going to the White House when Democrats got back into office. And last year, the champion declined going to the White House when Trump got back into office. And now you have the Knicks accepting an invite from the Trump White House. Okay. And that's a big deal. And
Okay,
that
cool. That's
is
the word. I should have tried this away a long time ago. I'm using Riverside with this setup. At first, for a while, I was using StreamYard. But I see Riverside is working. You know what I'm saying? Not a problem. That'll work. Thank you guys. Good morning. Let's get into it. You know what I'm saying? You got Joy Reid out here talking crazy again. And forget old girl name. But yeah, they out here just talking stupid, man. I don't think Joy Reid from America, and she, so I don't think Joy Reid from America. So I don't know why people want to listen to her bashing America. She not even from here. And by her being here and being here, not by her being from here and being here, she's a multi-millionaire. So she's living the American dream. So why is she tripping?
What is causing black liberals to lose their minds because they feel like the players are being forced to capitulate to the slave holding owner, right? They're basically calling James Dolan, the owner of the Knicks. They're comparing him to a slave owner because the Knicks are going to the White House, which is something that they don't want because the players are black.
And yeah, why not a championship team, especially from New York, going to see President Trump, who's from New York? It makes sense to go there, period. Every championship team goes see the president. You people are insane with this TDS. Every championship team goes see the president, and they get the president a jersey with the number of the jersey, president's choice or the president's number of being the president. So more likely he'll get a 47 jersey. If not 47, it'll be 45 or 47. Who knows? You know? Yep. Can you hear me?
Right, and, or mostly black.
Clear? Can you hear me clear?
Black. They feel like the players are being forced to do something that they don't really want to do. So, without further ado, let's get into this.
He has that. He's gonna have that syndrome where because they won a championship, he's looking to get all the credit and adulation. He got main character syndrome, and he ain't the main character. And this is kind of showing up in this moment is that he thinks it's a badge of honor, but like, I'm going to be the first one to take a team to the White House in the NBA under Trump. Like, that's not a badge of honor. That is not a flex.
And the reality, I mean, he got booed. He was the only person who got booed at the Keys to the City ceremony. Like, he alone got booed, like, lustily by the crowd there who hate him. And, he's previously invited Trump to do that hate rally at Madison Square Garden because he also owns Madison Square Garden. Like, I don't know if there is another team owner that also owns the venue. I don't know if he's the only, but the fact that he has that kind of dual role and can control the garden too, it's like he definitely comes across as a plantation owner character. And the fact that he would want to see these proud black men, have to be yes-sirring a racist president. It's just so, it hurts my heart so much to even think about it. It wouldn't be their fault, but it would be so, to me, demeaning.
Yeah.
And then it's crazy how they was blaming him from how they lost their game, and now they champions now. That's crazy. They mad that they lost the game, but now they champions. Now they can't go to see Trump. Can't make this stuff up.
Wow. These people are so unhinged. And when you think that you've heard everything, right? They can't get more unhinged. They just get more and more and more unhinged. It's insanity, right? Again, she is comparing the owner of the Knicks to a plantation owner, right? And the NBA players are slaves. They're being forced to go to the White House, right? To, meet the president. Which, I'm not sure how many slaves were able to meet the president at the White House, right? To be honored guests, right? What type of slaves are honored guests at the White House, right? NBA team owner, again, she's comparing to a plantation owner, and the NBA players, because they're blacks, they're slaves.
That's crazy and insane, because not only that, they multi-millionaires. They some rich slaves.
But these slaves are being honored at the White House, right? Again, it's just as silly as when people compare the NFL to slavery, right? Or the NFL combine to a slave auction. It's very silly, okay? Multi-millionaire athletes are not slaves. The team accepting the invite to go to the White House is not a big deal. It's not something to cry about. It's not something to be upset about. But again, these people want to force these athletes into agreeing with their political viewpoint, right? And I think that going to the White House is actually a neutral thing, right? I do not believe that a team accepting a White House invitation is a reflection of their political beliefs, right? I think that's like the neutral thing to do. I think when you actually start bringing in divisiveness, right, to our politics is when you have teams that decide that they're going to sit it out, that they're not going to visit the White House for political reasons, right? Which, you know, when they don't visit the White House, it is for politics, right? They're basically trying to make a statement, which is what NBA teams have been doing. Show up when the Democrats in office, but when the Republicans in office, they're like, nah, we're not going to show up. We don't want to come. Now, again, they have a right to do that, but I'm not going to make silly comparisons and, you know, claim that they're somehow slaves. They have free will. Maybe some players won't show up. Maybe the whole team will show up, regardless. Pretending as if they're being forced or that this is some type of slave situation, these people are very, very, very delusional. They're unhinged. They'll just say whatever, right? It doesn't have to make sense, right? It doesn't have to make sense.
Because he's purposely putting them in the line of fire of a administration that has been openly hostile towards Black folks. And, you know, it's
openly hostile towards Black folks. You mean openly hostile towards Democrats, right? Openly hostile towards Black people. Because again, President Trump is rolling back the woke agenda, rolling back DEI, which is basically racism against whites. He's getting rid of Democrat race-based districts, right? He's cleaning up crime in these liberal cities, right? These Black cities like Memphis. And for whatever reason, Jamel Hill thinks that that is an attack on Black people, right? I'm not entirely sure how that's an attack on Black people. I think that President Trump, especially when it comes to his initiative to clean up crime in some of these Black cities, I think that he's actually done more for Black people than any president has done in a long time, right? On that specific issue, which should be the most important issue to Black people right now.
It's messed up because the players will get the brunt of it because they're the easy target. And what's even more hypocritical about this, Joy, is that, see, he got to sort of say how he felt about Mamdani. Like, he didn't play nice. Like, he shaded Mamdani, right? He's not giving them that same opportunity. And I find that to be the height of hypocrisy. Oh, so you could show up the mayor and you could talk shit about the mayor, but they can't talk shit about the president. You making them go to the White House. And I'm like, you know, that's part of why all of this is so concerning. My general position.
Well, I don't think he's making them do anything. I think they have a choice, right? They don't want to show up. If they say, hey, I got other obligations, we already know why they're not showing up. We know they're not showing up because, again, they'll get backlash. I guarantee you there's going to be a whole lot of pressure for the Black players not to go, right? Not to show up. And if they do show up, they'll be called sellouts and this and that. And, you know, they'll say what they always say about Black people who freely think, right? We're not tilling the Democrat Party plantation, so to speak, right? Since, you know, Joy Reid wants to make those comparisons to slavery, right? Let's talk about why is it Joy Reid continues to till the Democrat Party plantation.
Forcing his team to do it. I also
well, he said they accepted the invite, right? I mean, I'm sure the players can choose to go at their own discretion, right? I think these people are assuming that if a majority of the team shows up, specifically the Black players, then they must have been forced to do so, because naturally a Black player would not want to show up to the White House while Trump is in office. I'm pretty sure that's their logic here, right? Because I don't think they're being forced. The owner just said, hey, yeah, we accepted the invite. We're going to see who comes and who doesn't come, right? But for the most part, right, for the most part, you know, if the team is accepting the invite, then most of the players are going to go. And I don't think that means that they were forced.
I'm tired of this whole narrative that this is about respecting the office. It's like the person in the office actually matters. And one thing that I think a lot of white people get the benefit of doing is being able to be politically neutral. Black people don't get to be that. We don't get to be politically neutral because our very
We don't get to freely think, right? We don't get to choose what we believe. We must believe what Jamel Hill and the Democrats tell us that we gotta believe. But yeah, hey, you know, James Dolan is a plantation owner, right? And the NBA athletes are slaves. But these individuals right here are free thinkers, right? They're free thinkers, and they're not tilling the Democrat Party plantation. But yet they're openly claiming that as Black people, we're not free to be neutral, right? We have to support the Democrats, right? That's what they're saying. It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
existence and our presence is political. And for them to, a lot of them to reduce this to, oh, it's just the White House, it's just the office, it's not that. This is a different.
Yeah, but it is. Just because you feel like the president should not be respected, that doesn't mean that 50% of the country feels the same way that you do, right? And that's what these liberals forget. They think that their opinion should negate the opinion of 50% of the country. That's not how it works, right? That's not how it works. Because if you feel like President Trump is a president that should not be respected, okay, you can feel that way. But you better be okay when teams decide not to show up, when a Democrat is in office, when a Black Democrat is in office, right? When your guy's in office, when you get disrespected, when you don't get the respect that you think you deserve, I don't want to hear nothing about it's racism, it's hate, it's bigotry. No, because liberals have said that, well, see, we feel like Trump shouldn't be respected, so therefore it's okay to disrespect the president. Okay, if that's how you feel, just keep that same energy when it happens to your person, right? But again, we know that Jamel Hill would never accept this. Again, if we are talking about a Democrat being in office, especially a minority Democrat being in office, a non-white Democrat being in office, we already know that a team refusing to show up because they feel like they don't have to respect the office, or that the office shouldn't be respected, or the person in the office should not be respected. We already know they'd be crying hate, racism. But when it's Trump, they're encouraging athletes to do just that, right? To disrespect the president. And that's why I say that, showing going up to the White House is actually the neutral thing to do. That's the neutral thing to do, right? Not showing up is actually what's dividing the country. Because you're, again, openly encouraging the athletes to say, hey, the president is not worthy of respect. To disrespect the president. But again, if you listen to these liberals, they'll, oh no, well, actually the divisive thing to do is to show up, right? It's like, no, that's not a divisive thing, because everybody should agree that the office, regardless of who's in the office, should be respected, right? Even if you don't like that person, even if you disagree with their policy, they are the president of the United States. And you should respect the office regardless of who's in it. But they got a choice. They can go or not go. I personally don't give a damn. I'm not going to be upset either way.
Symbol for us, and they need to respect that, respect the feelings of the players, whatever they may be. I could live with whatever decision is made as long as it was what the players wanted to do, not what the owner wants to do. Because immediately when he accepted the invitation or talked about it publicly, he then went into his longstanding relationship with
How are we feeling tonight?
New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani's political influence proved strong in New York's primary election results tonight. All three progressive candidates that Mamdani endorsed will win their House primaries, including defeating two Democratic incumbents. Educator and immigrant rights activist Darilisa Avilia Chevalier defeated incumbent Rep. Adriana Espaillat in New York's 13th congressional district.
Over the past 8 months, all of you in this room know how much the Democratic machine has tried to count us out. How at every turn they've underestimated us.
Former New York City Comptroller Brad Lander defeated incumbent Representative Dan Goldman in New York's 10th congressional district.
What a glorious time to be a New Yorker.
And New York State Assembly member Claire Valdez defeated Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso in New York 7. Mamdani, the 34-year-old Democratic Socialist mayor, has been vocal about what he sees as the future of the Democratic Party, citing the slate of progressive candidates he endorsed. Both Valdez and Chevalier are members of the Democratic Socialists of America, known as DSA. DSA! DSA! Mayor Mamdani made a late move with his endorsement in the race for New York 13, where he chose to back Chevalier over Espaillat. Chevalier has also been a controversial figure in the race for her attendance at a pro-Palestinian rally the day after the October 7th, 2023 attacks in Israel. CNN's K-File reported as well that deleted social media posts disparaging Democratic leaders were also posted.
Boy. So we got to talk about a major, embarrassing landslide defeat for the establishment Democrats that happened last night in New York as a bunch of Zohran Mamdani-backed socialist, far-left, radical lunatics swept the Democrats. Establishment Democrats in primary elections. You have individuals like Dan Goldman, who's been in Congress for a long time. He lost his job last night. And this is something that I have been warning you guys about. And I've been saying that the Democrat Party has been taken over by socialists. The Democrat Party is a socialist party. We're not playing word games anymore, right? When it comes to what is happening with the Democrats, they are actually socialists. And the socialist takeover is going to continue. The momentum is going to continue. And that is why it is important. It is super important for us to get out and vote in the midterms, because again, it's about sanity and common sense versus people who do not have common sense and who are completely and totally insane, Marxist. This is who we're up against coming up into the midterms, because this is what the Democrat Party has become.
You know, I really think that when in a time where we are spending more money than we have ever spent on policing, in a time where policing is more militarized than it has ever been, the fact that we are still asking the question, do we feel safe, is very telling. And as someone who studies this question of safety in my research, this question of criminality, I am someone who has looked for answers that actually bring real safety to our communities, and that is funding the programs that are actually correlated with an increased sense of safety and actual safety in our communities. And that is work that I am proud that I will continue to advocate for. I know that we will not get rid of police overnight. That was never the goal. But the goal is to make sure that we get to a place as a society where we do feel safe.
I know that we all deserve a representative who isn't bought by AIPAC. I'm also the only Muslim in my family. I reverted 3 years ago. Actually, the friend who pushed me to do it asked me, why have you fasted for 4 years and yet you haven't taken your shahada? She's here today. And when she asked me that, I thought, that is a great question. And I thought for myself, why I hadn't taken the step yet. But it was seeing how all of my friends who were showing up to organizing, who are Muslim, were showing up in the space, and the grace and love and passion that they had in these spaces of social justice, that really pushed me to join the faith. And wanting to make sure that we are reflecting that, I'm reflecting that in every space that I'm in, and that, you know, inshallah, if we make it to Congress, that we're reflecting that in the halls of power as well.
So are we ready to free Palestine? Are we ready to abolish ICE? Are we ready to win Medicare for all, housing for all, and unions for all? I know that's right.
And so and finding that the system of capitalism and racism and white supremacy, etc., and Islamophobia have all been used, to colonize lands, right, to take resources from other people. And so this is a long trajectory, and we're just seeing the manifestations of that continuation, right, with 9/11. And so a lot of times when people are asking us to respond about, attack, right, if you look back historically, right, a lot of us come from lands that were colonized, lands where wars are being waged, right? And a lot of times because of U.S. policy or the policies in Europe. And so I find that we can connect over that, but then also that the idea that we have to apologize for a terror attack that a couple of people did, and then there is no apologies or reparations for genocides and for slavery, etc., is something that I kind of find reprehensible.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. That's just a small taste of what we're dealing with here. Okay. What the Democrat Party has become. Again, very unfortunate for this country, but Zohran Mamdani seems to be the leader of the Democrat Party. He seems to be the kingmaker within the Democrat Party. And that is why you're saying what you're saying. So without further ado, let's get into this.
A Fox News alert. And did you feel that? A socialist earthquake overnight as 3 Zohran Mamdani-backed challengers win their Democrat primaries and drag their party even further to the left. And while Mamdani becomes the party's new kingmaker, some Democrats are preparing to fight back.
Plus, this morning, and Maddie, it was a socialist sweep in New York City. That's right, Carly and Todd. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani says the results of Tuesday's primaries were the beginning of a political movement. One of the far-left candidates he backed beat a 5-term incumbent in New York's 13th congressional district. Congressman Adriano Espaillat, the chair of the Hispanic Congressional Caucus, lost his seat to Democratic Socialist Darialisa Avila Chevalier. In New York's 10th congressional district, Mamdani-backed progressive leader Brad Lander ousted Congressman Dan Goldman, who was the lead prosecutor in Trump's first impeachment trial. And in New York's 7th congressional district, another Democratic Socialist member, Claire Valdez, won the Democratic nomination. Chevalier and Lander have said they want to abolish ICE. They've also been critical of Israel. Valdez, meanwhile, wants a state takeover of utilities and housing and unions for all, and said Free Palestine was on the ballot.
Solidarity is the force that we need to vanquish Trump's fascism, to abolish ICE, and to stand up to the billionaires.
Abolish ICE, free Palestine, organize your union, and join DSA.
What we have delivered here today is a clear mandate that the era of taking a check and cashing a check and calling it representation is over.
Yeah, so they basically put 3 AOCs in Congress last night, right? That's basically what happened. The squad just got a whole lot bigger. We got rid of Jasmine Ratchet. We got rid of, what's the other chick name? Cori Bush, right? The fat soul sister that got voted out not too long ago. Yeah, we got rid of them, but they get replaced with more radical lunatics. Amazing, amazing. It's like taking 1 step forward and 2 steps back, right? That seems to be what's going on here. But yeah, this is what we're dealing with. This is what the Democrat Party has become. Notice how every man that gets on board with this socialist nonsense, notice how feminine they are, right? I'm like, as a dude, how do you get on board with this? How do you get on board with this? So yeah, I mean, Democrats like Dan Goldman, turns out being Trump deranged was not enough to save himself from the radical socialists, right? It was not enough. So again, that's why I'm like, well, the Democrats kind of deserve this, but at the same time, it's not good for the country. It's really not. When you see these type of individuals winning these elections, it should be a wake-up call to Republicans. It should be a wake-up call to sane people in this country that we can't afford to sit it out, right? You can't afford to say, oh, well, see, you know, I'm not necessarily happy with everything that Trump has done, you know, or what Republicans have done and blah, blah, blah. So, you know, I'm not going to vote. you can't afford to do that, right? You can't afford to do that because you got to understand the people that they're voting into office, right? So let's continue here because I'm going to get a little bit deeper into this because, again, this is really, really, really bad for the establishment Democrats. This is really, really, really bad for the country. It's good for the GOP, right? But, again, it's bad for the country.
Outside of the Big Apple, South Carolina's State Attorney General Alan Wilson will become the Republican nominee for governor. President Trump initially endorsed Wilson's opponent, Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette, and she did finish first in the primary election. The president then decided to endorse Wilson and Evette in the runoff.
I believe he recognized what we've been doing for the last 10 years to support the things he was trying to accomplish with his administration. But also, I think he saw the fight in our campaign, the energy in our campaign. And I think he likes a fighter, and I think that's what won him over. I want to thank you, Mr. President.
And in Utah, former Congressman Ben McAdams is on track to return to Congress after winning the Democratic primary in the 1st Congressional District. He beat several progressives in the process, including one backed by Senator Bernie Sanders. Calling it out.
All right. What a night. Madeline Rivera live for us. Maddie, thank you so much. All right, staying on this very topic, New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani propelling 3 New York primary candidates into the midterms, giving the progressive wing of the Democrat Party a major boost.
This is your victory. What you all have shown this evening, whether for state assembly, state senate, or Congress, is that a year ago, it was not the end of a political movement. It was the beginning. And let's hear it for a politics. For a politics that will never forget working people. For a politics that is ready to write a new chapter in our party's history.
Conservative Partnership Institute Vice President Rachel Bovar joins me now. Rachel, thank you so much for joining us. It happened last night. And all these socialist candidates believe in Medicare for all. They believe in abolishing ICE. They believe that Israel is committing genocide in the Middle East. And one of them, Daria Lisa Avila Chevalier, once posted on Twitter that she forgot napkins, so she wiped her hands on the American flag. And she and the others are poised to be sitting members of Congress. What is your reaction to this and why the socialist movement is growing right now?
Well, there's no getting around it that this was a very good night for the DSA, for the Democrat Socialists of America. And I think what should concern everyone is that this is a growing movement. Remember, the DSA has grown 10% in membership since February. They have been chalking up wins at the local and county level in red states like Arizona, Kansas, Iowa. So these congressional seats are simply the next step in the process of them consolidating power and becoming less of a fringe movement on the left than moving towards becoming what is now the establishment Democratic Party. As you mentioned, people with extreme views are now going to be sitting in the United States Congress. And it's not just, you saw the DSA update its policy playbook just earlier this month. They now want to abolish the Senate. They want to abolish the Supreme Court and the presidency and make it all subject to Congress, in addition to a whole host of other things that they've talked about for years, like borders aren't real and all of these crazy proposals. So I do think this is something that can't be ignored. It can't be laughed away. Mayor Mamdani can rightly, at least after tonight, claim the right as kingmaker of the left. And for establishment Democrats, you break it, you bought it. They had time to push this movement into the fringe. They didn't. The time to say no to it was when they said borders aren't real and America is racist and Israel and the Jewish people are the source of every problem in America. They did not do that. So now Hakeem Jeffries, the leader of the Democratic Party in Congress, is going to have to deal with these people who now represent, in many ways, the face of his party.
Yeah, and a lot of people say what happened last night, it took place in New York City. No surprise there. But these 3 candidates that win, they give the socialist movement more messaging, more power there. When they get to Congress, they're going to have committee assignments and just become overall more visible. And it sounds like what you're saying is with these 3 races and the local elections that are taking place that aren't getting as much attention, that there is a real movement here that could impact politics on a national scale.
That's exactly right. I don't think, for a long time, we've shrugged and said, well, it's just New York, it's just these blue states. As I mentioned, we now have Democrat socialists, elected officials sitting in red states like Arizona, even in Texas, in Iowa, in Kansas. These are county seats, these are local elections. And what happens after that are these federal elections, are these federal seats. You just saw a Democrat socialist candidate win the Democratic primary in Maine's 2nd district, which is a district that Donald Trump won by 10 points. I mean, they are making inroads in, all across the country. So I do think this is something that the Republican Party, the institutional right, needs to grapple with. The left should have done it a long time ago, but now this is who they are. And I think that the establishment Democrats are going to have a hard time controlling them. Hakeem Jeffries has a lot to deal with, because these are not members of Congress who are going to be deferential to, the establishment Democrat way of doing things. They're going to get on committees. They're going to do what they want. So buckle up, Democrats, because there's a lot coming at you.
Well,
yeah, they're cooked. They're cooked. They're super cooked. So again, what is happening here is exactly what I've been warning you guys about since Trump was elected. Right? Since Trump was elected in 2024, I said that the Democrats for the next 4 years, okay, into 2028, there's going to be a civil war about the direction of the party, right? Is the party going to become more moderate, or are they going to go more further left? At first, after Trump was elected, it seemed as if Democrats were trying to become more moderate, right? They realized, okay, we lost because, again, we were too far left. Biden and Kamala were too far left. Okay. That's initially what the takeaway was, right? Remember Gavin Newsom doing the podcast with Charlie Kirk, right? Pretending like he's against biological boys competing against biological girls in sports, pretending like he's for common sense. But then once it became clear that that was not a popular stance, right? Being more moderate was not popular within the Democrat Party, from their base of socialist lunatics who they've appealed to for years now, he made a switch up. He made a change. And now you're seeing all these socialists winning these elections, getting rid of these establishment Democrats, which is exactly what I said would happen. I said these Democrats are going to lose their jobs. They're going to lose their jobs. The monsters that they created were eventually going to turn on them, and they were going to eat the establishment Democrats. Because in order to be a pure leftist, right? In order to be a real leftist, you have to agree with these lunatics 100%. There is no room whatsoever for disagreement. There's zero room. And if you disagree, your fate is exactly what happened to these establishment Democrats in this election. Look at what the Democrat Party is turning into, folks. Look at the left out in the UK, out in Europe, right? Looks very similar to what we're seeing from the Democrats in New York, right? Look who's running stuff. That's what they want to turn us into, right? They want to turn us into the UK. They want to turn us into Europe. They want to turn us to countries that are worse off than our country, right? That's what they want to do. And I'm trying to tell you, like, I mean, the roadmap for what they want us to become is Europe. It's right there. We can see it, right? We can see it. There's a reason why these people don't want to move to Europe, right? And be a part of their socialist utopia. And they want to turn our country into a worse country. And that's what they're trying to do, right? So I made a video a couple of days ago about Gavin Newsom and the wealth tax out in California and how, that's possibly going to be on the ballot. And if it is on the ballot, then it's going to put Gavin Newsom between a rock and a hard place because, he is going to have to openly campaign against this or veto it, okay, if it passes, because he knows that type of tax is not something that's going to help him in the general election, but also at the same time, his opposition to it is going to make it a lot harder for him to win a primary. At this point, I personally don't think that an establishment Democrat, somebody who is not a socialist, can win the Democrat primary at the national level. I think that is how far gone the Democrat Party actually is at this point. I think they are that far left that the primaries, okay, in 2028, at the national level, I personally believe that only an AOC type candidate can win. I don't think Gavin Newsom can win. I don't think Kamala Harris can win unless she goes further left, which she probably will, right? She tried to pretend to be a moderate, right, in 2024. I think that only a socialist type candidate can win that primary at this point because of just how far left the Democrat base has become. It's not enough to be Trump deranged. Dan Goldman was Trump deranged. Didn't save him, right? Wasn't far left enough, even though he's a lefty, right? He was a lefty, but again, not far left enough. Trump derangement is not enough. It's Trump derangement plus being a radical socialist. That's how you win a Democrat primary. The formula is very simple. Trump derangement plus socialism. If Democrats aren't willing to get on board with that, then they're on the chopping block. And these progressives are winning. They're winning. So let this be a wake-up call to Republicans, more so than anything. Like, we can't allow these people to win general elections. Not in swing states, not in red states, not. They bullied them.
Anthony. Baby, and here's the starting lineup. Nobody came to play. I know people